There can be no way of knowing someone 100%. Everyone in this world lives with infinitely less awareness about each others. What one shows outside is a tiny fraction, a very tiny fraction of what goes within one's mind. So we all depend upon each other's fractured honesty to go about life. And actually, this fractured honesty is all that it requires in the physical reality. Which is why people who commit the worst of the worst crime are praised. They are sent to power, and all they do is they lie. So everywhere we go, we hear songs of love, songs of harmony, peace, and everywhere we go, minds are intertwisted into such a degree that true understanding of each other is never possible. And little knowledge is very dangerous. So with this little knowledge, we go about our life. A human mind has infinite thoughts that it brings from what he has or what she has heard and learned in this life, or from a source that is beyond one's own capabilities. One is born into identity. One simply is sprouted in the sense of psyche, in the sense of energy body, in the sense of experiential existentialism, or in the sense of mindless being, or the state of meditation. Only in this state the mind is no more. Otherwise, the mind is present every moment, every time. So everything the mind has learned comes from this life, and everything the body brings, and there is a subtle body, and there is a psychic body that is given by this creation, and that has its own infinite amount of things, that has its own vast knowledge of the self. And therefore, by only understanding the self, a human can come to a realization that indeed one can never understand what is in front of him. Because there is no way. Because of our limitations as human beings, we have 5 senses, and we try to tune in through all the senses and get a sense of what one is, indeed what one is saying, what one is talking about. And our 5 senses linked with the memories, which is the past, we fail to realize in this process the constantly happening, constantly creating itself of this universe, of this creation. And as long as one lives in the memories, lives in whatsoever he has done or she has done in the past, one is constantly shining his or her own stories that he gathered. One can reach up to the youngest days of life and recall many memories and understand the impacts that they had in the life. And this is helpful. This is what psychologists call shadow work. This is helpful to understand the self and to understand the responsibility of the self. And even in this state, the mind that tries to comprehend fails, because it is visible that as much as unknowable one is the same with everyone else. And everyone else is a complex of many different forms of emotions, many different forms of experiences, many different forms of stories packed into one tiny bag of flesh and bones and blood and electrical perceptions. One simply cannot understand the other. And therefore, in any relationship, the moment one thinks I understand the other, he or she gathers a prejudice, a tiny amount of prejudice that will come into play into hurting himself or herself when the right time comes. Because every prejudice hurts in one way or the other. With the realization, every prejudice starts hurting one's own self. With the unrealization or with the sleeping mind, with the eyes of the mind, it simply turns into ignorance. And one goes unnoticed of one's own prejudices. And always there is someone else who shows that one is being prejudiced. And when he or she is told about it, the immense fear, the immense anger appears up. And this fear, this anger turns into some words, some actions, which in turn hurts the other. And like this, the game of hurting is continuing into one big, one mass, one global misunderstanding. And that is the idea that one can understand anyone else. Or in closer sense, one's mind can understand anything. But the mind cannot understand everything, and mind cannot understand one's own complex. There is no possibility of understanding someone else's complex. Once one self understands one's own self, there is a possibility of seeing that there is a possibility of someone else understanding his or her own self as well, and realize that nothing can be known in an existential sense. Whatever is known immediately becomes the past, immediately goes into the past, and we take reference of that past into living this life. And this phenomenon is helpful for building societies, building rockets to Mars and beyond, but is not helpful in understanding one's own existence, the existence itself in general. It becomes impossible to understand. It becomes more and more difficult to understand the existence when we think that we can understand. But when we think we cannot understand, despite the fact that mind is always trying to understand, it becomes revealed that it is the nature of this mechanism called mind. It's a very subtle mechanism, yet a mechanism. So this phenomenon goes on of recording something and thinking this is okay, this is not okay, this is good, this is bad, this is love, this is hate, or putting any tag. The story can continue. And all the story is in the past. The existence creates itself in the present. So when the mind goes off, the mind goes silent, one immediately disappears and finds one with this happening. And only in this point one can truly love someone else. Only in this one point one is 100% vulnerable as the other, and they both know that equally. One can kill the other, one can save the other, one can do whatsoever can come into one's mind in this reality. But yet, one is there witnessing each other and also witnessing the unknownness of each other. and one's own self. Both become existence, and only when both become existence at once, there is the union, because both are none. The existence is. And in this state, there is no animus, there is no anima. Both are gone, disappeared into this existence. And this kind of love, and this is the love, and whatever else we think is love is a fraction of this experience. And which is why we tend to feel that whenever we fall in love, we tend to feel we have found a fraction of God, the fraction of creation, a fraction of eternal happiness and bliss, eternal uplifting feeling, the eternal prayer. So everything else we call love is attached with sometimes sexuality, sometimes property, sometimes emotional support, sometimes a boat to hold on. And with a prejudiced mind, the world will always see that particular being prejudiced. What good does it bring to one's own self? So one has to forget every otherness that there is. One has to get rid of every you that is present. And when that happens, the other is the I, is the existence. This is cosmic love. This is beyond the root chakra. This is beyond the heart chakra. This is beyond the third eye chakra. And this is indeed beyond the crown chakra, the Sahasrara. This is beyond every chakra. Because the state of chakra means something, and that again means some prejudices, some formation that took billions and billions of years to form and exists. The genes in the body, for example, are storehouses of the knowledge of creation. Likewise, each chakras, each state of mind are all but pre-recorded and now being played, just like a seed that turns into a tree. This is why people thought about the state of karma and thought, oh, I'm living like a life like this because of my past karmas, because of what I did in the past, of which I don't know, but it connects somehow. This created humbleness in people in a sense, in a way which worked for centuries, and when the path of living life with division as much as possible, by categorization as much as possible, was coming in, this belief, this faith slowly withered out, and a very few people have this sense of understanding. But again, that is also living in the past. When all the past is gone, all the prejudices are gone. When all the story one lives, has lived, is let go, the prejudices are let go, the desires are let go. And then the lover, the beloved, becomes one, becomes the phenomenon of love itself. And only in this oneness, and only in this love, you can see someone into complete nakedness that one is, and also let that person see into you, into your complete nakedness. Everything else is a story. Only this form of nakedness is intimacy. And you can take this, and one can take these eyes to see the whole world, and instantly the whole world becomes new, refreshed, full of adventure, full of here and now.